Have you ever stopped to notice where your dog chooses to sleep when night falls? Not in the little spot you prepared so lovingly, not in the comfortable bed that cost you good money, but right there, at the threshold of your bedroom door, exactly in that space between the hallway and where you sleep. Have you ever experienced this? If the answer is yes, know that you are not alone. Thousands of pet owners around the world live with this behavior every day and, most of the time, completely misinterpret what it means. Some think the dog is being stubborn. Others think it is just a quirk or that the pet simply does not like the place where it is supposed to sleep. But the truth is much deeper than that, and much more beautiful too. Today you will find out what this behavior reveals about the emotional bond between you and your dog. And you can be sure what you will find behind this silent gesture will completely change the way you see your four-legged companion, what you are about to discover may surprise you, because this apparently simple behavior carries within it one of the most genuine expressions of emotional bonding that a dog is capable of showing. Canine psychology has been studying this type of attitude for decades, and what experts have found says a lot about the relationship between humans and dogs, a relationship that has evolved over thousands of years and has deeply shaped the mind and instincts of these animals. Dogs are not random creatures. Every behavior, every choice of position, every apparently meaningless habit has a root, instinctive, emotional, or social. And when your dog decides to lie down exactly at your bedroom door, it is sending a silent message that most pet owners have never learned to read. A message that speaks about safety, about effective hierarchy, about protection, and about a bond that goes far beyond food and daily walks. Think about it. In nature, the ancestors of dogs slept in groups, always alert, always positioned strategically to protect the members of the pack. That instinct did not disappear. It simply found new meaning within the domestic environment. And when your pet chooses that specific position at the entrance of your bedroom, like a silent guardian, it is, in its own way, fulfilling a role that is engraved in the essence of what it means to be a dog. But it is not just instinct. There is also a powerful emotional dimension to this behavior, involving attachment, trust, and something that researchers call the secure base bond, the same type of connection that human babies develop with their caregivers. Stay with me until the end, because understanding this will completely change the way you see every attitude of your four-legged companion. And there is more. Depending on how you react to this behavior, whether you push the dog away, ignore it, or simply let it happen, you may be strengthening or weakening this connection without even realizing it. The way pet owners respond to these silent signals has a real impact on the animal's emotional well-being and on the quality of the bond you share. So before you consider this a simple habit or a coincidence without importance, it is worth understanding what is really happening in your dog's mind when it makes this choice. Because behind this apparently small gesture, there is an entire story about loyalty, canine love, and a type of language it uses to communicate with you every day, even when you are not paying attention. And that is exactly the language we are going to start decoding now. Speaking of silent language, have you noticed if your dog does this? Does it sleep at the bedroom door, or perhaps very close to your bed, or at some strategic point where it can see or hear you? Every detail of this behavior says something different, and I really want to know how it is at your place. Leave a comment below about how your dog sleeps and where it chooses to stay. Tell me, does it stay at the door on the outside, or does it manage to come in and prefers the corner near your feet? This is the kind of detail that may seem small, but will make total sense once you understand what is behind it. And who knows, maybe your story will help another pet owner in this community interpret their own pet's behavior. Because that is exactly what happens when we share. We learn together. Now, if this video has already made you look at your dog differently, if you already felt that tug at your heart realizing it may be telling you something you had not yet understood, click like now. It is not just a button. Every like is a signal to YouTube that this type of content matters, that there are people who truly want to understand their dogs, who want to go beyond the surface. And when the algorithm understands that, this video reaches more pet owners, people who may be making mistakes without realizing it, pushing the dog away, ignoring signals, missing the chance to strengthen a bond that the animal is already offering on a silver platter. So click like and be part of this, because in the end, more dogs live better and more loved because of that simple gesture. And if you have made it this far and have not yet subscribed to the channel, Stop for a second. Think about what you have already discovered just in this beginning of the video. Now imagine having access to this type of content every week. Behaviors that seem random but have an explanation. Signals your dog sends every day that most people simply do not see. Concrete ways to strengthen this bond that is one of the purest that exist. If you love your dog and want to understand what it really feels, this channel was made for you. Every video here is a new layer of that understanding. Subscribe now and activate the bell, because once you start seeing what your dog is communicating, you will never look at it the same way again. And that, believe me, changes the relationship forever. Your presence here, your comment, your like, and your subscription are what keep this channel alive and reaching more people who love their dogs the way you love yours. That is community. That is what makes all of this possible. And now that you already know that there is a real psychological and emotional reason behind this behavior, it is time to understand exactly what happens in your dog's mind when it chooses that position, what it is processing, what it is feeling, and what this gesture reveals about the level of trust it places in you. It thinks it is protecting you. Even living inside a house, sleeping in comfortable beds, and receiving affection every day, dogs still carry a hidden truth that comes from their ancestors. The instinct for vigilance never completely disappeared. It simply adapted to the new reality, and that is exactly why so many dogs choose to sleep at the bedroom door. For them, that place is not random. The door functions as a strategic point. From there, it can perceive movements, sounds, changes in the environment, and any unusual situation. It is almost like an automatic protective mindset, something that happens effortlessly. While you sleep thinking it is simply resting, a silent behavior is happening behind the scenes. In many cases, your dog feels it is taking care of you, and that completely changes the way you look at this scene that is so common in daily life. Because, in its mind, you are part of the pack, and protecting the pack has always been a matter of survival. Some dogs demonstrate this by positioning themselves exactly between you and the rest of the house. Others choose positions where they can observe hallways, entrances, or any movement coming from outside. It seems simple, but there is a very strong emotional impact behind that decision. It is as if it assumes, without anyone telling it to, the role of family guardian. Now, I want to show you something that makes everything even deeper, because in certain cases, this behavior is not linked only to the instinct of protection. There is an emotional connection so intense in there that many pet owners go years without realizing what the dog is really trying to communicate. The emotional truth that almost no one notices. There is a silent revelation behind this behavior that completely transforms the way many people see dogs, because, unlike what some imagine, they do not just form habits, they form deep emotional bonds. And when a dog chooses to sleep at your bedroom door, many times it is seeking something much greater than comfort. It is seeking you. The door represents closeness. It represents safety. It represents the need to feel that the most important person in its life is still there. And this happens because dogs develop an extremely strong emotional connection with their owners throughout the daily journey. Small routines, sounds of the house, footsteps in the hallway, the smell of the environment, all of this builds a sense of stability within the animal's mind. Your dog may sleep at the door because that is the closest possible point to you without invading your space. And when we understand this, we realize there is a kind of emotional balance happening there. It does not need to be exactly on the bed. Just feeling your presence is enough for its body to relax. For many dogs, hearing your breathing already brings calm. It seems simple, but the psychological impact of that is enormous. In some cases, there is even a mild separation anxiety involved. Nothing necessarily exaggerated, but a constant need to confirm that you are nearby. It is as if its brain silently says, "Everything is okay, my person is still here." Now I want to show you a detail that changes this interpretation even further, because depending on how the dog sleeps at the door, it may be revealing completely different emotions without making a single sound. When attachment starts to become emotional neediness, but there is an important detail that almost no one notices. This behavior is not always linked only to affection or the instinct of protection. In some cases, it can reveal a silent emotional dependency that builds up gradually behind the scenes of everyday life. And this usually begins in a very discreet way. The dog starts following the owner around the entire house. It keeps watching every movement. It waits outside the bathroom. It shows agitation when it senses signs that it is about to be left alone. And when the EI bedroom door closes. Some dogs even whimper, bark, or become restless without fully understanding what is happening. Many people interpret this as simply too much love, but the truth is that there is a very delicate line between healthy attachment and emotional anxiety. Some dogs use the door as a way to reduce anxiety. It is as if that space functions as a mental safety point. By being there, near the owner's scent, hearing familiar sounds, and feeling the person's presence, the animal's brain manages to relax. This does not mean something serious is happening. And here comes an important revelation. Most of the time, it is not a reason for panic, but it deserves observation. Because dogs also develop emotional patterns, and depending on the routine, the owner's decisions, and the way this bond was built, some end up developing an excessive need for closeness in order to feel safe. The impact of this can appear in small everyday behaviors that almost go unnoticed. Now I want to show you something that completely changes this emotional interpretation. Because even the position in which the dog sleeps near the door can reveal different emotional states, such as confidence, alertness, or even emotional insecurity. Your dog's body is telling a story. There is a hidden truth that few pet owners notice. It is not just the place where the dog sleeps that matters. The position of its body completely changes the emotional meaning of that behavior. And when you learn to observe these details, you begin to see silent revelations that were happening right before your eyes the whole time. Dogs communicate in silence all the time. For example, when a dog sleeps on its back near the door, that normally indicates total trust. This position leaves vital organs exposed, so it only does this when it feels the environment is safe. It is as if its brain completely shuts off the state of defense. There is a deep sense of peace there. Now, when it sleeps with its head raised or wakes up at the slightest noise, the scenario changes. This shows vigilance. Even while resting, part of its attention remains active. It is almost an automatic protective mindset, as if it were monitoring everything around without truly relaxing. Another detail that creates a strong emotional impact is when the dog leans directly against the door. In many cases, this reveals a search for security. Physical contact with that space creates a kind of emotional stability. It is as if it needs to feel connected to the environment and especially to your presence. And there is still another very revealing behavior when it sleeps facing away from the bedroom. This usually indicates protection of the environment. In its mind, that strategic position allows it to observe possible movements and act quickly if something happens. That is why the most important question may be this: is your dog relaxed or in a state of alert? Now I want to show you a point that completely transforms this emotional interpretation, because many pet owners live daily with signs of love and protection without realizing the depth of what the dog truly feels. Comment below, "My dog does this too." The silent proof that you are its whole world. In the end, there is a very significant transformation when we start to understand these small behaviors more deeply. Because what seemed like just a random habit begins to reveal real feelings happening behind the scenes of the relationship between you and your dog. And perhaps this is the most exciting part of all. Your dog may not be able to speak, but it shows love through small daily behaviors. Sometimes that love appears in the way it waits for you to come home. Other times, in the attentive gaze following your every step around the house. And in many cases, it appears precisely in that silent moment of the night, when it chooses to sleep at your bedroom door without anyone having taught it to do so. Do you see the impact of that? Sleeping at the door can mean protection, attachment, trust, or simply the desire to be close to the most important person in its life, you. And there is something very powerful in this hidden truth that few people notice. While many people see only an animal resting on the floor, the dog may be living a deep emotional experience of connection, safety, and belonging. For it, your presence completely changes the environment. Your voice, your habits, your schedules, and even the sounds of the routine create a sense of emotional stability that directly influences how it feels. Perhaps that is why some dogs choose exactly that specific spot every day, as if they were silently making the decision to remain close even during rest. Now, when you look at your dog sleeping near the door again, you will hardly see the same scene in the same way. Because after understanding these signals, a new journey of perception begins, about everything it has always tried to communicate without words. And perhaps that is the most beautiful part of understanding dog behavior, because the more you observe, the more you realize they are trying to communicate all the time, even without saying a single word. Small habits, positions, simple daily choices, all of it carries emotion, trust, and a connection that many people go their entire lives without truly seeing. If you love your dog and want to understand what it really feels, this channel was made for you. Here you will discover signals that most people ignore every day. Every video is a new way to strengthen the bond with someone who trusts you completely. If that makes sense to you, subscribe now, because those who truly understand their dog never look at it the same way again. Now I want to hear from you. Does your dog do this too? Tell me here in the comments, because every behavior can have a different meaning. When you share, you also help other people better understand their own dogs. And I read everything to bring videos that are increasingly closer to your reality. Right below, I really want to know your story. And if this video made you notice something new about your dog, leave a like now. That shows YouTube that this type of content needs to reach more people who love their dogs. It may seem simple, but that gesture helps other owners avoid making mistakes without realizing it, and in the end, more dogs live better because of it. There is a video right here on the side that complements this topic a lot. Click on it and stay with me over there. Because once you start understanding your dog's emotional signals, many things begin to make sense in a completely different way.